Howard Schultz grabbing the political spotlight as he considers an independent run in 2020. Democrats are concerned that he could hand President Trump re-election. Schultz is out with a new book, From the Ground Up, A Journey to Reimagine the Promise of America. And I spoke to the former Starbucks CEO earlier today. Mr. Schultz, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you have managed to do something that only Donald Trump has been able to do, and that is unite the Democrats against you. And it's almost like they're trying to snuff out the spark of your campaign before it could even get started. Are the Democrats overwrought? It's like they've had like a triple macchiato on an empty stomach.
I think the Democrats need a little bit less caffeine right now, is what I think. I think they've over-rotated completely, because it's very possible that if I run for president as a centrist independent, that more lifelong Republicans will come my way than Democrats. So I think the whole thing is just an overreaction in 24 hours. Let it all play out. Let people get to know me, and let the story get out.
So when Democrats say that they're worried that you would split their vote and you would help President Trump win re-election, do you think it could actually work the other way, where you would split Republican votes and take some votes away from President Trump?
Well, I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen, but I think they're overreacting. That it's a very strong possibility that more lifelong Republicans who will have no place to go if there is a left-leaning, liberal, progressive Democrat, they will vote for Donald Trump. It's very possible if they had a better choice, someone in the middle, who can speak to their values, they would vote for someone like me. But I think the real question is, what kind of country do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a country that is so far to the left and that is moving towards socialism, or a country in which the American people no longer trust the leaders in government, no longer have any respect for someone in the Oval Office, or is there a better opportunity?
So this election, that's what 2020 is going to be about, right? So they'll figure it out. As you've had this last few days launching, your book is From the Ground Up, which I spent the last few days reading, and I really enjoyed. But have you had any sort of worries that maybe you're going to lose friends along the way? I mean, I don't know if you've heard from other people in your circle. It's quite eye-opening. You even got heckled the other day by somebody, and I'm assuming you have no idea who that was or what group that was.
Yeah.
So, in terms of it being clarifying to you, how hard this could actually be, has that sunk in?
Well, if you think about my life story, I grew up in public housing in Brooklyn, New York. I am living proof, literally, of the American dream. I've come from the other side of the tracks and have been very successful in building a different kind of company that gave health care, ownership, and now free college tuition. So I've done things that most people did not think were possible.
Right.
I'm not trying to do this to just do something that people would think is crazy or erratic. It's been very thoughtful. It's been very sincere for one reason. I love America. I'm profoundly concerned about the situation in the country, the millions of people who are being left behind, our standing in the world, a president that is not qualified to be president, and a level of toxicity and just irrational behavior on both sides.
But President Trump is president. I mean, do you think he's not qualified now?
I do not think he's qualified to be president.
And is there something specific that you would point to on that?
Character, morality, a lack of dignity, respect, a set of values. You want me to keep going?
No, I mean, I get the picture of what you're saying. Obviously, he'll have a chance to defend himself on that. But I do want to ask you, though, if you look at mostly midterm elections are about the referendum on the president. Presidential elections are really about the economy.
Yes.
Would you give the president credit for having a 3.9% unemployment rate? That's the lowest since 1969. Wages have started to come back. Would you give him credit for that?
No, I would not give him credit for that, because I think the reduction in the corporate tax rate of 21% was wrong and irrational. He missed a massive opportunity for comprehensive tax reform. But if you look at the facts are 40% of the American people do not have $400 in the bank. 5 million young people in America, mostly black and Latino, are not in school, not in work. 1 out of 6 Americans are food insecure. Yeah. So, no, I don't give the president credit for any of that. And I do not give him credit for saying for 2 years that the stock market is a proxy for the economy. He is going to fall on his sword for that, because that economy is not going to last.
Are you predicting a recession?
I'm not predicting anything. I'm just saying that using the stock market as a proxy for the economy when the majority of Americans do not participate in the stock market, something I know a lot about, is irrational.
So somebody else who pays a lot of attention to the stock market is Elizabeth Warren, and she had something to say about you and Michael Bloomberg last night. She said, billionaires like Howard Schultz and Michael Bloomberg want to keep a rigged system in place that benefits only them and their buddies, and they plan to spend gobs of cash to try and buy the presidency to keep it that way. She says, not on my watch. What do you say to that?
I find that so offensive. First of all, Elizabeth Warren doesn't know me. I mean, I started from nothing. I'm self-made. Isn't that the promise of America, that regardless of your station in life or where you come from, that you can be successful in this country? I also think it's ludicrous. Elizabeth Warren, a number of years ago, knocked on my door and asked me for money when she was running for the Senate. So it's somewhat duplicitous, isn't it?
Did you donate?
No, I did not.
To Elizabeth Warren?
No, I did not.
She didn't make the sale. No. Well, take a listen to Tom Perez. So he's the Democratic National Committee chairperson, and obviously he's got anxiety about you jumping into the race. Let's listen to him.
I have respect for Howard Schultz. If he chooses to get in the race, I hope he gets in the Democratic Party. We'll treat him very fairly.
Clearly he's saying he's not, though.
Well, what I tend to agree. Again, Mayor Bloomberg, I think it was, who said, I've studied independent runs, and what an independent run would do in 2020 is simply split the anti-Trump vote and help Donald Trump get reelected.
So for those Democrats who think, well, if you think that your ideas are so great, why don't you try to persuade and work within the Democratic Party and try to actually win it that way and not try to skip to the head of the line, not even have to go through a primary, and just because you're very wealthy, be able to run as an independent.
Yeah. I think I want to be very clear on making sure that what I'm about to say is understood by the Democrats. If I run for president, I'm not running against the Democratic Party. I'm running against the system of the political infighting, the self-interest, the ideology, and the inability of both parties to do anything on behalf of the American people. And if I ran as a Democrat, which I would not do, I would have to be disingenuous given the platform that they are moving towards, which is a level of government takeover of health care, government takeover of free college for everyone, a job for everyone, which tallies about $40 trillion on a basis of a $21.5 trillion level of debt. It's not realistic. So we need a thoughtful, serious conversation. And the Democrats are really creating a false narrative in the same way that President Trump created a false narrative by saying the Mexicans were going to pay for the wall. It's not truthful.
You might like this quote from Josh Kroshar of National Journal. He says, don't dismiss Howard Schultz's presidential prospects. Democrats wouldn't be freaking out if Schultz's third-party candidacy was a vanity project. He's hired top consulting talent who have experience appealing to the very suburban voters that are up for grabs. For people who think that maybe this is just to sell books, or that maybe you're going to go through all of this and in 4 months when you finally decide that we've been duped, like you're not actually going to run for president, how do you respond to that?
Well, listen, I'm a serious person, and I have serious, profound concerns about the country. I want to do everything I can to restore faith in our government and to give the American people a real chance and opportunity at the American dream. That's why I'm here. Okay,
so in your book, you write about when you had to go to the board at Starbucks and you wanted to provide health care to everybody.
Yes.
And there's pushback. They're like, wow, this is really expensive. I don't think we should do this. But you said, no, we should do it. And then that helps you attract good talent, retain good talent. And so do you think the government should mandate that companies do that or allow the private sector to do it so that they could be competitive in their industries?
Well, what I learned at Starbucks through all these years is that not every business decision is an economic one. And if I was fortunate enough to be president, what I would be trying to do is to convince and persuade every business in America to do more for their employees, more for their communities, and as a result of that, their financial success will be increased. Starbucks stock is up 23,000% since I took the company public in '92. And at that same time, free college, free ownership in the company, and health care. No other company ever did that. And so we proved...
But that's their competitive... That was your choice, right? That was your competitive edge.
Yeah, we should mandate. It should not be mandated. Government should not mandate anything.
So Kamala Harris, who is running for president on the Democratic ticket, she says that... the other day she said in the town hall she supports Medicare for all. Then there was this thing last night where their campaign's like, oh, actually, health insurance, good. But today, her campaign press person, Kamala Harris, saying she supports Medicare for all, period. And it's just not possible?
Well, I don't know Senator Harris, but what I would say to her is, listen, I know a great deal about the health care issue, especially living as a kid who lost health insurance, and I provided it to my employees. To come out with the suggestion that we're going to eradicate the insurance industry is just it's so false, and it speaks to the level of politics that we now have. Now you're just going to yell something out, tweet it, and all of a sudden that's going to be your position. It's not reasonable, it's not thoughtful, it's not truthful, and it's what's wrong.
You write movingly about your childhood, how that has informed a lot of your thinking. You talk about how when you were trying to buy Starbucks, you had to raise a lot of money, and you said it was like you didn't like the fundraising part of thing. Will you completely fund this all on your own, or do you plan to do some fundraising?
Well, first off, I have not made a final decision as to whether or not I'm going to run for president. We'll make that decision over the next few months. Just in the last few days, the amount of incoming email of support for what I'm trying to talk to the American people about has just been amazing to me. I don't know whether we're going to self-fund it. I don't know if we're going to accept donations. We'll have to see as we go.
So my last question then, you talked about you were the embodiment of the American dream. There is concern out there that people feel like that maybe that possibility is gone. And are you concerned that the policies of the United States, if somebody like you doesn't run for president and win, that could become true, that there is a possibility that we are going to be so much in debt, our entitlements haven't changed. I don't know if you would ever actually want to take that on, but we have a lot of problems in this country, but do you still think there's hope for it?
I have such confidence and optimism in the American people, but the American people right now are much better than our political class. The reason I'm sitting here, the reason I've been talking about all of these issues is exactly what you've just mentioned. We have serious, complex problems that need to be solved, and I have reached the conclusion without unequivocally that these serious problems cannot be solved with our current state of affairs in terms of Republicans and Democrats who are steeped in ideology and their own self-interest and will not work together. And furthermore, for any Republican or Democrat that just wants to step aside and vote their conscience or their heart on any issue, they will be completely ostracized from their party and primaried out. And that's what's wrong with the system.
Even my last question to you, do you have any concern that this effort, if you can't get to 270 electoral votes, you can't be president, that this is a fool's errand, that they're going to spend a lot of your money, consultants are going to make a lot of money off of you for something that is not possible?
I would say, listen, if you read my book from the ground up and where I came from, what I've been able to accomplish, with humility, I say people should not count me out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
To win, and that's why they're all ganging up on him. It's amazing to watch the media, how they're like, whether it's MSNBC or CNN or Stephen Colbert, all diving in on this guy because they just don't want him to ruin the opportunity for I would assuming it's for Kamala Harris.
There was one other bite that I wanted to show you, and he talks about his upbringing and how that scarred him, but he got over it. Watch this.
I still have the scars, the shame, and the vulnerability of being that poor kid when bill collectors show up at the door.
Or when you had to answer the phone, and
when I have to answer my parents put me on the phone when bill collectors call. My parents just struggled their entire life, and it shaped the way we saw the world.
I think also the Democrats probably won't like to hear that, right?
What great parents. Put the kid on.
It was tough.
That was
he had a tough upbringing.
Very clever. Put the kid on the phone. That's why you got to have kids. I never thought of that.
Are rethinking that decision now?
Yes, I am. Use the kids. No, you know what? He obviously represents the American dream, and then again puts the Democrats on the back foot when they're criticizing him, because essentially they're criticizing somebody who clawed his way up, rung by rung to where he is. It drives me crazy, and I've lost my mind on the five when people go after the rich because they assume that the rich were always rich. It takes decades.
Yeah, he gets his back up on that when asked about Elizabeth Warren, comments about him. Now, I had a kind of a Greg Gutfeld moment, I feel. I was pretty proud of myself.
Genius.
Yeah, watch this part. So, okay, the book is called From the Ground Up. I have a question.
Yes.
Did it ever occur to you that it should be from the grounds up? No?
No, I never did.
Did you see, like, from the grounds up? It's coffee.
No, I love it.
Okay, so he's lying to you?
You think so?
Yes, he's lying to you. He was going, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think it was cute, but he was like, I would, that was just like, oh God.
But don't you think it'd be like from the grounds
I
up?
do get it, and I do think that, Coffee is beloved almost by everybody. The only people who don't drink coffee is because they can't, because whatever. But anyway, coffee. Everybody loves coffee. It makes you feel great. So he should actually insert terms of coffee into all of his, like if he talks about, like if he's talking about the rich versus poor, he should say like economic inequality. Just subliminal stuff.
Any others you got up your sleeve there?
Nah, that was the only one. Although since he's retired, he's become a has-been. Shoot me. No, I find him refreshing. I think that it is a fool's errand, but I think it is refreshing, and I think it's sad.
What do you think of this idea, though, like to it being a fool's errand? There's a lot of candidates out there who get told by consultants that you should do this, you should run, and we'll spend your money wisely, but they're going to make a lot of money, and he's not going to get to 270 electoral votes.
If anybody who has ever renovated a house knows, a contractor will never say no. He'll say, oh no, you should really redo this kitchen. It's like a contractor telling you have to keep renovating when you really don't. So as long as you got the money, they're going to take it, and so what?
What did you think about on MSNBC this morning when they asked him about
the Cheerios?
If he knew what a box of Cheerios cost?
As if those two actually have Cheerios for breakfast. I mean, they probably eat Fabergé eggs in a skillet made of gold. It's just so predictable. We make fun of this all the time, and it's like nothing new under the sun for these lemmings. They just keep going over the same crap all the time. How much is a quart of milk? Isn't that like 30 years old? Didn't that happen under one of the Bushes?
No, it was the scanner.
Yes.
Remember? And then it turned out to not be true, because guess what?
What?
The media got it wrong.
Exact fake
media
news.
bias, and 41 deserved,
I wouldn't know the price of milk because I'm lactose intolerant.
Right? And but you can drink coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your order when you go to Starbucks?
I just have that regular roast that
French
they have.
roast?
No, just the stuff that they have. Pike's something.
Market.
But I do the Keurigs now. I do Dunkin'. I do a whole mix of things.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other great question I had. I said he was a Starbucks man in a Dunkin' Donuts country, but
that's a country music song waiting to happen.
And I could write that. All right. Well, we have enjoyed having you very much. Thanks
a latte.